everybody, cooking in the kitchen with Sylvia again. Okay, today I'm going to show you a simple recipe on how to make pork pozole. I'm going to show you the ingredients. It's really easy to make. We're going to start with about a pound and a half of pork shoulder chopped in small cubes, about 2 inches or so. Depends on how much you want to make for your family, but this is going to be enough for at least 2 people. Okay, and here we're going to add some garlic, about 2 cloves, about half a small onion that I chopped. We're going to have some tomato paste, ancho chilies, that's going to give it some flavor, some hominy. I'm not going to use this whole container because this is a 20 ounce. Usually I use about half, but it's up to you how much you like the hominy. Okay, and of course our basic seasoning, salt, pepper. We've got some bay leaves, that's going to give it some good flavor. A little oil to help us sear the meat. Now for the toppings to this pozole, it's like a Mexican stew. Sometimes you can add some radishes, some cilantro, some chopped spring onions, and some chopped cabbage or lettuce. It's up to you, whichever you prefer. And you can use regular lettuce. This one here is Napa cabbage, so it's very mild and really good. So we're going to use those later when the stew is all finished. So I just wanted you to know what you can use for toppings. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to heat up our pan. I've already got this going here. And I'm just going to put a little bit of oil, probably about 2 tablespoons. And you always want to keep your meat just a little bit dry, so grab yourself a tissue, napkin, just to make sure you don't, injure yourself when you put the meat in the hot oil. And of course, you always want to be careful because sometimes it'll splatter. So you've got my oil heating up here. And I'm just going to sear this meat, okay? So it's going to take about, I would say, 5 minutes or so, and I'll come back and show you what's next. Okay, our meat has been searing here, browning a little bit here, you can see. You don't have to get it too brown, but it does give you a much nicer flavor if you can brown some of that. Okay, so now we're going to add the onions. Just pop them in there. And the garlic. This is about 2 cloves, just chopped up. Okay. And then we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Okay, so we're just going to scoop out about 2 tablespoons. That's one there. And the other one. Okay. Now to this, we're going to add about 4 cups of water. This is because we're going to stew this for about an hour and a half so that the meat will become really tender. And what you're looking for here is you want to make sure that there's enough water to get that stew cooking. Now during the hour and a half, if you notice that you're running low on the water, you can just add a little bit more, like a half a cup or a cup. So right here I've got about 4 cups of water, and now we're going to add some seasonings. We want to put our bay leaves in. Okay, we're going to add about half a teaspoon of salt, and you can always flavor it some more later. And then you can add some pepper to this. I'm not going to add pepper, but some people like a little spicier pozole. And we kind of cut back a little bit on the pepper, but we can add some of it if you like, so you can drizzle a little dash of pepper there. So what we're doing here, in this sense here, we want this stew to boil for about an hour and a half. Now for our chilies, I went ahead and prepared 2 cups of boiling water here, and we want to soften our ancho chilies. Now it depends on how spicy you want it. You can add 1 or 2. So the ancho dry chilies look like this. And the hot water is going to help to soften this. So all we need to do is put that in that hot water. I'm going to turn off the flame because the water's been boiling. Leave that in there for about half an hour. Then we'll be back and I'll show you how to take care of the chili. Okay everybody, this stew has been cooking for about 30 minutes and it's still simmering there. Just leave that there for now. We've got our ancho chili. It's been soaking in this hot water for about 30 minutes. So now it's got soft. Now you have one of two things that you could do here with the chili. If you, of course, you want to remove the stem. Never mind about the liquid there. But we're trying to remove the seeds. And all you want to do is split it open carefully, it's because it's still a little warm. And just remove the seeds either this way just scraping them off. And those will get thrown away. Some people don't mind having a little bit of the seeds, so it's not going to hurt you, but you don't want too many of the seeds. Okay, now you could do one of two things. You could either put this in the blender, add about half a cup of water just to help you blend it and chop it up. But it's going to give you the skin of the chili. Sometimes people don't want the skin in their stew. So what you want to do in this case is bring it over here, and then you just want to scrape the inside, which is the meat. And if you go like this, you see how I'm scraping that? And you're going to add that to your stew. So scrape it off. Like I said, you could just put the whole thing in the blender and just chop it all up. But if you don't want to have little bits of the skin in your stew, you just want to scrape off the meat, because the meat is what you're looking for. This is where you get the flavor. Okay? And if you want it a little more spicy, then you could soak 2 of these chilies instead of just 1. I don't want too much seasoning, too much spiciness, so we're just going to use 1 chili. So you can do the same thing like this when you're doing your tamales. I think I have a tamale recipe that you can go. You can either put it in a blender or just scrape up the meat from the chili. Okay, so as you can see, it's all in there now. Now what we're going to do here is let it continue stewing, and it's going to stew for about another hour, and then we'll come back and finish our recipe. Okay, so cover that up, keep it on a simmer it for about an hour, and let it soften the meat. Okay. Okay, it's been about 45 minutes. I've been keeping an eye on the stew. It did start to minimize some of the liquid, so I added about a cup of water more just to make sure we don't dry it out. And now we're going to add the hominy. We're only going to add about half of this. This is about 2 cups, so we're going to add about 1 cup of the hominy. This has been drained from the container, from the can. And it depends on you. If you like more, you can always add a little more. So here, now that we added the hominy and I added a little extra water because it was starting to dry down, here's where we're going to do a little taste test, because we may want to add a little more salt or maybe a little pepper. It's your preference. So take a little bit out, but be careful because it's hot. Yes, I could use a little more salt, so I'm going to add another ½ teaspoon. So it's probably about this much. I've been measuring it, so that's about ½ teaspoon. Like I said, it's your preference. You can add a little dash of pepper just to spice it up a little more, and it's to your flavoring. So let that simmer, let the hominy heat up, probably another 15-20 minutes. And it should be ready for serving. So get that a nice little stir, get everything in there. And we'll be back in about 15-20 minutes, and we should be ready to serve. Okay, everybody. Now I've got this cooking about 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes when I added the hominy. So now you can see that it's all nice and smooth. I did add about half a cup of water, just a little bit more because it was starting to get a little low and I didn't want it to burn. So always keep an eye on it just to be sure you don't neglect that it's losing too much water. So, and of course you can always reflavor it, add more salt, add more pepper if you like. You could even add some garlic powder. So we're pretty much done with the recipe here. Now we can serve it. Now you don't want to serve the bay leaves, so those are going to get tossed, so just put them aside. So all you need is get yourself a nice bowl, and you can see that the meat is now soft and tender. Add your hominy and your stew into your nice bowl here. Add some more of this. This is where you're going to start adding your toppings. Now I made this as a 2-person serving. If you want to serve more, like if you have a larger family, you can just double up on the recipe. And like I said, all you need to do here is add your choice of toppings. You can add a few of the thinly sliced radishes. Some people like to have a little cabbage, which I like to put in there too. Then you have a little bit of the spring onions. You just toss them in. And have chopped up some fresh cilantro. So you just have to add whatever you like to your liking. You can add more, you can add less. And you could even add a little bit more onions if you want. If you don't want to use the spring onions, you could just use regular onions. So it's your preference. This is my pozole recipe. I hope you get a chance to try it, and I'll catch you again on another recipe soon. Okay, take care.